Happy Lunar New Year, year of the white metal ox. I'm going to ask Kelly or Aaron if they could drive the slideshow for me. Um, so I'm going to just talk to you a little bit about some of the traditions of Lunar New Year. It's actually a tradition that I follow. So Aaron, Kelly, thank you. Alrighty. So I'm going to put my little stuffed animal down for the moment. So I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about Lunar New Year. Lunar New Year is celebrated, this is actually a solar Lunar New Year. It's actually celebrated throughout the Chinese diaspora, but also in places like Singapore and Vietnam where it's called Tet. But I'm going to be focusing on sort of the Chinese traditions because those are the traditions that I follow with my family. I understand that everybody's family traditions are different. So, bear with me if you don't do it exactly the way I've experienced it. But I think one of the important things to share about the new year is that it's a time when family is celebrated. And like many holidays around the world, it's a time to connect with your community through rituals. And it also involves a lot of things about food. So there you go. Next slide, please. So for Chinese New Year, you may hear people say 新年快乐, so Happy New Year, or 恭喜发财, or 恭喜发财, or you may even hear someone say 牛年快乐, so that's Happy Ox Year. But 恭喜发财 is basically wishing you a lot of good fortune as you enter the new year. And who doesn't want that, right? Next slide, please. In China and Hong Kong and Taiwan, New Year is actually also known as Qunjie, the spring festival. So it's this harbinger of spring. And so we're preparing for newness and growth, and we're welcoming that in. And it's actually a 14-day festival. And it's a festival where, especially in places like China or Taiwan or Hong Kong, people are traveling during this time when it's not COVID. They would normally travel back to their home origin, like where their parents live or their grandparents live, so that they could be with the family. So there's a lot of preparation for Chinese New Year. So I've been very busy in my household, and I expect many other households who celebrate Lunar New Year have been as well. And you are really supposed to do what I think in the Western world is called spring cleaning. You do a deep clean of your house, and it's really important for some reason to get all the corners, get all the schmutz out of the corners, because there's this belief that all of the sort of bad spirits hang out in those corners and get trapped, and we don't want that. So we do a big cleaning before New Year's. We make sure to cut our hair in the 2 weeks before New Year if we can, because again, for some reason, besides corners, bad spirits like to hang out in your hair. I don't know the reason for that. I don't know that story. We also welcome in spring by making sure that we have branches of quince blossoms or plum blossoms, or always fruits with the citrus fruits with the leaves and the stems. It's actually really bad luck to give people the stuff without the stems, because the greenery invokes this notion of growth and prosperity. Oranges in particular, or small oranges like tangerines, also represent a sense of money, like a gold coin. So they're also very prized. Bamboo is also considered very lucky, as it is so hardy and very hard to break. So it's another plant for Chinese New Year. All this symbolism, Lunar New Year, all this symbolism is really, again, to remind us, it may feel very superstitious, but it is to remind us of these values that we hold core. And obviously many cultures hold these values core, but it's a time to remember some of these values. We are told to make sure our pantry is full, because you never want to have an empty pantry on New Year's Day. We want to make sure all of our knives are sharpened before New Year's Day, so that we can have an easy time as opposed to fighting against our knives as we cook. And we are to fill our wallets before New Year's Day, so that we wake up in the morning, we have money, and we're supposed to make jiaozi, so dumplings that we will eat on New Year's Eve. So next slide, please, Kelly and Aaron. So the days of Spring Festival are 14, and one of the big nights was last night. It's New Year's Eve. There's a lot you need to do for New Year's Eve, including you'll see there's a character that you may not realize is upside down, the one that's in a sort of um, uh, square that's turned sideways, and that is the character for fortune. And the idea is that on New Year's Day, all the fortune will come in and fill up that character, that vessel, and the fortune will land in your home. In the evening of New Year's Eve, you are to eat dumplings with your family. You're to play mahjong, because mahjong, if you've ever played it, is quite noisy, and that will frighten all the bad spirits away, as will the firecrackers. Again, it's a time to gather with the family, and that's probably the primary importance. As we shift into New Year's Day, which is today, we're again not supposed to wash our hair, because today is when all the good spirits come in and land in our hair. And we are supposed to only eat vegetables, because so many traditions in the Chinese observation of Lunar New Year come from Taoist and Buddhist traditions. So we should not be killing anything today. So it's a vegetarian day. And you'll see there's something called Lei or Hongbao, and that is red envelopes. And we give gifts of a red envelope with either sweets inside or money inside to wish the recipients a great and sweet new year. There are many other days in the New Year Spring Festival, and some of those are dedicated to various gods, like the kitchen deity, or to various relationships. As you know, Confucianism is also a big part of the Chinese culture. So our relationships to our parents, to our siblings, to our bosses, to our children are really important. So there are days that are dedicated to focusing on those relationships. And finally, we end the New Year festival with the Lantern Festival. For those of you who may celebrate, for example, Diwali, this notion of light and bringing us out of the darkness into light is a common theme for many traditions that have festivals in the winter. Okay, couple more for you. Next one, Kelly. So I want to acknowledge my self-proclaimed preeminence as the Bay School Chinese astrologer, which the staff who know me are probably laughing at this moment. But the Chinese calendar is actually a 60-year cycle, and it's made up of what we call branches and stems. And those branches and stems, more colloquially, are attached to an animal and an element. So as I mentioned earlier, this year is the year of the metal ox. The last time the metal ox showed up was 60 years ago, and that was in 1961. So Barack Obama is a metal ox, for example, and it will show up again until another 60 years. And there is this cycle that goes on, and there are relationships among those people, those animals in the cycle. Some of you know the story of how the animals came to be. Supposedly, the Buddha was on his deathbed. He called the animals together. And the very first animal was the trusty ox, who planned and just took his time, like Craig Butts would say, had good habits, and made his way to the Buddha. But the rat was along the side of the road and was struggling and asked for help. So the rat jumped onto the back of the ox, and the ox took him to see the Buddha. And when he got to the Buddha, the rat jumped off and declared himself the first arrivee, which, is a little bit tense. There's a little bit about rats maybe not playing by the rules, a little cheating going on there. And the ox was a little miffed, but, the ox remains the steadfast one. All of the animals have relationships. So the rat, dragon, and monkey are known as the visionaries, who like quite a bit of competition. The ox, the snake, and the rooster are known as the work ethic and the philosophers of the group. The tiger, horse, and the dog are known as the protectors and focused on society. And the rabbit, goat, and pig are known as the diplomats and the ones who are focused on art and creativity. Next slide, please. So what can we expect in the year of the metal ox? Well, we can expect a lot of the things that the ox is about. The ox is methodical and purposeful and detail-oriented and practical and hardworking and honest. These are all traits that will be supported in the year of the ox. So if those aren't your traits, you kind of need to work on being a little bit more ox-like. Oxen, however, also don't change their minds easily, stubborn. They don't really like any abrupt change. They have difficulty sometimes with communication, especially as it relates to emotions. And while an ox would never lie, because that's not a trait that they possess, they can omit. So what do we all need to be prepared for in the year of the ox? Next slide. So the ox asks us to be hardworking and not rely on shortcuts, to be organized and prepare and don't be in a rush, to be conservative with your money and save and use your money wisely. And because the ox isn't always as good around communication, it always behooves us to ask questions. If we're not sure that we understand everything, go and ask questions. And we can expect things to go steadily and smoothly, but slowly. So this sounds like a great year that's coming up. So it rewards hard work. It rewards a lack of abruptness, like slow and steady wins the race. So maybe this is the year of the hare, but not really, of the tortoise rather. So we want you all to have a great year. If you want to know more about anything about the Chinese zodiac, feel free to email me. Last slide. Happy New Year. Thanks. Bye.